very serious. You see, time flies. So it's been half a year since last media briefing in January. And according our usual practice, in the months of July or August yearly, we will have the mid-year media briefing. But this year, I have to move this media briefing on today. I'm sure all of you have noticed that recently there are another round of voices arising from maritime issues. So today, I have no choice. I have to set the record straight on behalf of the Chinese Consulate General, based in Cebu. And early this morning, a so-called Western Philippine Sea Victory Day commemoration was held in Cebu City. In response, the Consulate General released a statement. So now, I'm sure it's already in your hands among the papers. Can you all find it? Yes. It is very brief. However, if you wish to understand better about the South China Sea issue, I strongly suggest you to read all the papers you have today. The 2016 Arbitral Award is illegal, null, and void. This tribunal was politically motivated, manipulated, and has been rejected by China on sound and sufficient legal grounds. Some forces repeatedly make use of the so-called arbitration to incite hatred against China. They try to package it through word play and mislead the public. First, let us be clear about what this arbitration really was. It is nothing more than a political farce disguised as a legal proceeding. The essence of the arbitration initiated by the Philippines is territorial sovereignty disputes between our two countries. But UNCLOS does not regulate matters of territorial sovereignty. The Philippines abused the dispute settlement procedure of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, that is UNCLOS. Territorial sovereignty issues are not within the scope of UNCLOS. And maritime delimitation issues had already been excluded by China in 2006 through its declaration under Article 298 of UNCLOS. The Philippines knew this, yet it deliberately repackaged territorial issues as mere questions of treaty interpretation. The so-called arbitration tribunal was by no means an international court. It was established at the Philippines' unilateral request. This ad hoc tribunal, arbitral tribunal, had no jurisdiction. The 5 arbitrators were paid by the Philippines. billing by the hour to provide services and produce so-called legal documents according to the client request, essentially operating as a makeshift, profit-driven legal outfit. It violated fundamental principles of international law, including pacta sunt servanda, that is, agreements must be kept, and the principle of estoppel. In addition, the Philippines' unilateral initiation of this arbitration violated the consensus reached between our two countries, and also violated the provisions of the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea. Second, let us look at the facts that the tribunal conveniently ignored. China's activities in the South China Sea date back over 2,000 years. China was the first to discover, name, and develop the islands and reefs of the South China Sea, and the first to continuously, peacefully, and effectively exercise its sovereignty and jurisdiction over them. China's sovereignty over the islands in the South China Sea and its related rights and interests were established over a long historical process and are fully supported by historical and legal evidence. So the core of the disputes between China and the Philippines is the territorial issue arising from the Philippines' illegal occupation of some islands and reefs of China's Nansha Qundao since the 1970s. The Philippines' territorial claims over these features are completely unfounded under both history and international law. Now, please watch a short video about it.
The Philippines has highly controversial territorial claims in the South China Sea. Today, we will present a report that helps us better understand what lies behind this controversy.
This is a map of the Philippine Islands drawn by the U.S. War Department's Bureau of Insular Affairs in 1902. Here is Guangyan Island, and here are the Nansha Islands. Neither lies within the Philippine territorial boundary shown on the map.
More importantly, this was not just one old map. It reflects the long-standing international understanding of the Philippines' territorial limits. To understand this, we need to go back to the Philippines' colonial past. The territorial limits of the Philippines were defined by 3 treaties.
The Philippines was successively ruled by Spain and the U.S. In 1898, Spain ceded the Philippines to the U.S. under the Treaty of Paris. The treaty defined Philippine territory with precise geographic coordinates, limiting it to areas east of 118 degrees east longitude and south of 20 degrees north latitude. That boundary excluded both Guangyan Island and the Nansha Islands.
Other agreements, including the 1900 Treaty of Washington and the Convention between the U.S. and Great Britain in 1930, between the United States and Great Britain, clarified several territorial ambiguities, but none of them moved the Philippines' western boundary.
In 1935, the Philippines adopted a constitution that defined national territory according to these treaty limits. For nearly 3 decades after independence, the country repeatedly reaffirmed those boundaries through its constitution, domestic legislation, and official maps.
This is a letter issued in 1990 by the Philippine ambassador to Germany. It explicitly stated that Guangyan Island and the Nansha Islands were outside the scope of Philippine territorial sovereignty. And this is a certificate of territorial boundary issued in 1994 by the Philippines National Mapping and Resource Information Authority. It confirmed the territorial limits shown for the country's official map number 25, where Huangyan Island was marked outside Philippine territory.
Taken together, these documents reveal a striking contradiction. The Philippines' current claims are not supported by its own historical records, legal commitments, or official maps.
So this is just a very brief video about some historical facts. Let me also point out the absurdity of the award itself. We all know Taiping Island, which is the largest island in the Nansha Qundao in the South China Sea. This island has an area of about 0.43 square kilometers. But the tribunal ruled that this island is a rock rather than an island. And it concluded that no feature in the Nansha Qundao can generate an exclusive economic zone or continental shelf. This is not only a distortion of UNCLOS. If such a standard were applied, then many countries' maritime claims around the world would be rendered illegal. This alone shows how fundamentally flawed this so-called award is. Third, does the international community support the so-called South China Sea arbitration? The answer is no. The United Nations Secretariat, through its spokesman, made clear that the arbitral tribunal and the so-called award did not represent the position of the United Nations. The International Court of Justice and the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea likewise clarified through their official social media accounts that they had no involvement in the arbitration. The Permanent Court of Arbitration also stated that it merely served as the registrar for the arbitral proceedings and is not itself a judicial body. So internationally, it enjoys no genuine support. Even among ASEAN member states, no one has openly endorsed it. Only a handful of outside powers with their own political agendas have paid lip service. If the so-called award were to be taken as a standard, as I said, many countries, islands, and reefs would be denied the basis for claiming maritime rights and interests. May we ask, have those countries supporting the award voluntarily waived the maritime rights and interests deriving from their relevant islands and reefs? Fourth, before I move to the fourth point, I'd like to invite you to watch another short video.
On July 12, 2016, an arbitral tribunal issued its award in the so-called South China Sea arbitration. China rejected the award from the start.
For years, many Western commentators have presented the case as proof that China respects international law only when it serves China's interests. But does the arbitration itself stand up to the same legal scrutiny?
A report published by the China Institute for Marine Affairs argues that the case was not simply an impartial legal judgment. It argues that a dispute over territorial sovereignty was reframed as a dispute under UNCLOS.
And it is not wrong. A number of legal scholars outside China have also raised serious questions about the award and the tribunal's reasoning. So, a decade on, let's revisit this controversial case.
UNCLOS deals with maritime rights. It does not decide who owns land or islands. So how did the Philippines try to bring this case under UNCLOS? By using what lawyers call a mixed dispute strategy.
The approach is simple. Take a dispute that is fundamentally about sovereignty, combine it with questions of maritime rights, and then treat the sovereignty issue as merely incidental.
Once that is done, the case can be repackaged as a question about interpreting UNCLOS.
A study by the British Institute of International and Comparative Law described this as a deliberate strategic choice.
French scholar Jean-Louis Viten put it even more sharply. He described
that is the real danger. A ruling may be legally elaborate, but when it is seen as politically driven, it does not settle disagreements, it hardens them.
Revisiting this award is not a rejection of international law. It is a reminder that international law must be applied with restraint, consistency, and respect for its limits. International law should help lower tensions, not become another tool for political maneuvering.
The media should not become an instrument of geopolitical competition. Instead, it should be a bridge for friendship and mutual understanding, which will ultimately serve people's welfare. There's another seat here. You may join us here along the table, please. For truth and facts, you will look through the papers we gave you today instead of only sticking to one-sided information. The more you read from different sources, the better you will get the full picture. Dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, over the past weekend, we have also noted a so-called photo exhibition was held at some shopping mall in Cebu. Here, we must register our strong objection to these unfounded allegations against China that were on display. The allegation that China's United Front work constitutes covert influence operation is a grave mischaracterization. I just mentioned some simple examples. This is the one. This front work in China is tasked with building consensus among diverse groups, promoting harmony, which is lawful, transparent. Chinese embassy in Manila, in the Philippines, our embassy has repeatedly dismissed such Mercoside accusations as baseless smears. Another example, China's diplomacy. China's diplomacy is always open, transparent, and seeks only to present facts and foster mutual understanding. Every country has the right to tell its own story. Sister city partnerships, Chinese cultural programs, as well as various exchange programs are all very, very normal practice. Every nation, including the Philippines, carry out such public diplomacy and exchanges overseas. Labeling them as influence operations reflects a Cold War mentality that has no place in today's world. This photo exhibition also slandered Chinese enterprises. To vilify these enterprises is to ignore the tangible contributions they bring to Filipino development, including Filipinos' lives. And I'm sure there only serves to scare away legitimate foreign investment that the Philippines need for its development goals. Regarding POGO, China has consistently and unequivocally opposed all forms of cross-border gambling. China has actively cooperated with Philippines to repatriate involved Chinese nationals. To blame China for POGO is not only false, but also cynically diverts attention from the real causes and the Philippines' own problem. Given time constraints, I just cite a few examples here. This photo exhibition is full of absurd and ridiculous lies. Such a display is staged so blatantly before the public, demonstrates a deliberate intent to mislead and inflame sentiment, which cynically ignoring the truth and the facts. They poison public opinion, sow distrust, and undermine the genuine friendship between our peoples. However, I believe sensible Cebuanos can see through these fabrications and judge China-Filipino relations not by these defamation and slanders. Dear friends, China-Philippines relations should not be defined by maritime differences. A sound and stable bilateral relationship creates real benefits for both peoples and contribute to regional peace, stability, and common development. I'm very glad to share with you some other updates about progress we have been making. First, people-to-people exchanges are recovering during the first 5 months this year, benefiting from the visa-free policy from the Philippine side and resumption of direct flights by Chinese carriers The number of Chinese tourists visiting the Philippines from January to May this year registered a 63% year-on-year increase. At the same time, the number of Filipinos traveling to China from January to March saw a nearly 20% year-on-year growth. Second, practical cooperation between China and the Philippines has produced concrete results. China has been the Philippines' largest trading partner for 10 consecutive years. According to Philippines statistics, the total bilateral trade volume between China and the Philippines in 2025 marks a 12.9% year-on-year increase. China also ranks as the Philippines' fourth largest export destination. Notably, the Philippines' high-quality agricultural products and the other areas' products have maintained a relatively fast growth momentum in exports to China. Meanwhile, China-Philippines cooperative projects in new energy, electric power, communications, agriculture, and other various sectors in the Philippines are advancing steadily. These projects have effectively boosted local economic development and improved Filipinos' well-being. Third, local cooperation between China and Cebu are moving forward steadily. Earlier this year, in February, Cebu governor led a delegation to Fujian province, Cebu's sister province, focused on strengthening ties between two provinces. This year, not long ago, Cebu City firefighters had training programs in Fujian, Sanmin City. Some Cebu youth leaders, not long ago, also had a study visit in China's Guangxi, focusing on artificial intelligence and robotics. And soon, in July 23 to 25, here in Cebu, in Vincent Soto Memorial Medical Center, Fujian Traditional Chinese Medical University will send a delegation to exercise medical outreach activities. I just mentioned these simple examples. These are examples, very positive. They are truly the positive movements to strengthen sub-national exchanges and people-to-people ties, which will benefit people's well-being. Dear friends, I also want to gently remind you the local public opinion environment, policy consistency, and attitude towards China play a key role. A welcoming, inclusive atmosphere, confidence built on a friendly and stable environment will surely attract more Chinese visitors, investors, and partners, unlocking huge untapped potential in various sectors, which surely will bring tangible benefits to the well-being of the people. But meanwhile, I have to say it is deeply regrettable, once again, that certain individuals in Cebu City have chosen to move in the opposite direction. China and the Philippines are close neighbors that cannot be moved apart. Our peoples have lived side by side peacefully for generations and generations. There's no reason for our two countries to drift apart. And even less reason for us to stand in opposition to one another. As long as both sides uphold mutual respect, choose dialogue over competition, properly manage differences, and place the well-being of our peoples at the center of our efforts, then China-Philippines relationship can return onto the right track of sound and stable development. This will not only bring more tangible benefits to our peoples, but also contribute to peace, stability, and development in the region. Dear friends, media are not only observers of China-Philippines relations. You are also bridges of communication and the builders of public understanding. We sincerely hope that you will help the public see the full picture, reduce prejudice and misunderstanding, and create a better public opinion environment for friendship and cooperation. Now, I'm glad to share some other recent updates with you. This year, China's economy has made new headway while navigating a changing situation. In the first quarter of 2026, China's GDP had the growth up by 5% year-on-year. China's latest industrial profit data shows electronics industry profits more than doubled, driven by strong demand from AI, new energy, and advanced manufacturing. In the first 5 months, China's total goods imports and exports increased up by 15.3%. Trade with ASEAN increased up by 16.6%. China's next phase of development will generate opportunities not simply through market size, but through more technological progress, industrial upgrading, and deeper global cooperation. So we just take a few minutes to watch another short video.
In the first 5 months of this year, profits at China's major industrial firms rose 18.8% year-on-year, while profits in the electronics sector more than doubled, surging 103.9%. By the end of 2025, the number of foreign invested enterprises in China had reached 533,000, with cumulative FDI stock approaching $4 trillion. Two sets of figures, one unmistakable trend. The opportunities that China provides are expanding. At this year's Summer Davos in Dalian, that evolution was captured in a new phrase: China Opportunity 2.0. So, what exactly has changed? 3 shifts help explain it. First, from world's factory to factory for factories.
The historic keywords for China, or Chinese brands, is fast, reliable delivery, extremely low prices, and high quality production. China is trusted for producing good quality products, and it's no surprise that both Tesla and Apple get a large number of their products made in China, because they know that China can be relied upon to do those things. China no longer wants to be seen as made in China, they want to be seen as created in China.
That ambition is now taking shape. More multinational companies are setting up R&D centres and regional headquarters in China, integrating more deeply into the country's innovation ecosystem and industrial supply chains. In 2025, newly established foreign invested enterprises in scientific research and technical services increased 27.2% year-on-year, reaching nearly 14,000. China offers something few places can match: an end-to-end innovation ecosystem, where companies can move seamlessly from research and prototyping to large-scale manufacturing.
I think China used to be a factory for the world. I think in the next days, China can be the factory for factories, right?
Joan Guy, chairman of McKinsey China, has described China as the factory for factories, a place where global companies don't just manufacture or sell products, but also train, learn, innovate, and co-create. Second, technology is becoming borderless. China champions open innovation, much of it along open source pathways. Chinese open source AI models have now surpassed 10 billion cumulative downloads worldwide.
So a lot of work we do in China with AI is also based on Chinese AI models. That is very important, and there also there's a good bridge to the use cases of robotics, because also the robotics startups are using a lot of these Chinese AI models.
Major scientific facilities in fields such as nuclear fusion and quantum technology are open to international researchers, while the Tiangong space station is preparing to welcome foreign astronauts. China Opportunity 2.0 reflects a broader shift. As advanced technologies become more accessible, the benefits of innovation can be shared more widely. Third, an ever more open door to shared development. China does not pursue trade surpluses for its own sake. Instead, it continues to expand market access and share the opportunities of its vast domestic market. In the first 5 months of this year, imports grew 20.5% year-on-year, outpacing export growth by 8.7 percentage points. China now grants zero tariff treatment to 63 countries and has ranked second globally in import volume for 17 consecutive years. At a time of growing global economic uncertainty, openness itself has become an increasingly scarce resource. The growing attention around China Opportunity 2.0 suggests that the so-called China shock narrative is giving way to a more constructive global outlook. For Europe and other advanced economies, China Opportunity 2.0 does mean facing stronger and more cost-competitive Chinese competitors. But for those willing to engage pragmatically with China's increasingly open market, balancing efficiency with resilience, it also offers new opportunities in the evolving global economy.
Watching China Opportunity 2.0 means more accessible advanced technologies and widely shared outcomes. Dear friends, China's success is not accidental. A fundamental crucial reason lies in the leadership and governance capacity of the CPC, the Communist Party of China. As we mark the CPC's 105th anniversary this month. Many global observers are asking one key question. What has made this party so capable of leading China to deliver 3 miracles? Rapid economic growth, long-term social stability, and full-fledged peaceful rise. In short, the answer is continuously advancing self-reform, strengthening discipline, self-discipline, combating corruption, improving governance capacity, and responding to the people's needs. Now, I invite you to watch another short video.
Let's talk about a startup story, a proper one. It began 105 years ago with just over 50 people. Today, its membership surpasses 101 million. Yes, 101 million. It's a name you can probably guess.
The Communist Party of China.
Some Chinese people online have called it the greatest startup team in history. So the big question is, how exactly was the world's biggest political party built? And what makes it different from the rest? Start with the obvious bit, the numbers. By the end of 2025, the party had more than 101 million members and over 5.43 million local branches. It reaches from government ministries down to villages, from office towers to delivery depots. The size isn't everything. The interesting part is the shape. Most political parties in the West are built around elections. You turn up, you vote, job done. The CPC works differently. The world's biggest party isn't just a head count. It's a measure of how much the organization can actually do. Organize, mobilize, govern across a country of 1.4 billion people. Over the past 40 years, roughly 800 million people were lifted out of extreme poverty, beating the US 2030 global target 10 years early. Most recently, the party oversaw China's industrialization and helped build the world's second largest economy. Not many organizations carry that kind of weight. Most people try to understand the CPC the way they would understand any political party. But that doesn't quite work here. Some Chinese scholars described it instead as a civilizational party, an organization shaped as much by Chinese history and culture as by politics. Let's hear from Xie Maosong, a researcher at the China Institute for Innovation and Development Strategy.
中国做了一个民营政党，它超越了西方的政党所谓的数量的一个多寡，它有一种权力的代表性，超越了这种西方政党这个部分，它是跟中国文明做了一个连续性文明是有一个深刻的关联性的，所以它只能在一个连续性的从这个土壤上长出来。但是同时呢，它学习马克思主义，然后成为一个马克思主义的政党，是两个结合的一个产物。
That's the cultural story. But how does an organization of that size actually hold together? Professor Zhou Jianyong from the Party School of Shanghai Municipal Committee has a view on that.
超大规模的政党，它能够行稳致远，我觉得有3个非常重要的支柱。第一个支柱呢，就是组织体系，就是按照民主集中制原则建立起来的上下贯通、执行有力的组织体系。这个组织体系保证了不同的层级之间的有序的运转，保证了组织功能的有效的发挥。第二个呢，我觉得是它的组织纪律，就是以严明党的纪律管全党、治全党。那么第3个重要的支柱呢，我觉得就是通过彻底的自我革命精神，推动我们组织的各方面新陈代谢。我们通过管党治党，把权力关进制度里面。
That's the architecture. Discipline is the other half. Since its 18th National Congress in 2012, the party has tightened membership standards and reformed internal governance. Over the past decade, large numbers of disciplinary cases have been investigated. Through this internal kind of accountability, the party has tried to stay sharp, evolving from a big party into a more capable governing one. At the end of the day, how has the CPC made it all the way to today? Let's go back to 1921. 13 young people, average age 28, met for the party's first national congress in Shanghai. They were not chasing money or power. They were looking for a way forward for their country. That mission eventually became a phrase every generation has grown up with: serve the people. It might sound like a slogan, but look at the actions. the largest poverty reduction effort in history, expanding healthcare, infrastructure projects, and the ability to mobilize fast when disaster strikes. Roots like that are the good reasons for people to keep joining. As British scholar Martin Jacks puts it,
the remarkable thing about the Chinese Communist Party is its ability to constantly replenish itself, to renew itself. That is a condition of its existence, because if you only got to go to China now, as a Westerner for example, and see what's happening, and you already feel that you're moving into the future.
this particular startup story wasn't built on luck. The CPC has relied and continues to rely on deep cultural roots, a people-first philosophy, serious organizational muscle, and the willingness to keep reforming itself.
Thank you. So I strongly invite you to visit China. You see, we all know currently today, due to well-known reasons, still sometimes we can notice simply because it is called communist. Then because China's political system are different, then some people will arbitrarily define and dismiss CPC. But dear friends, if you can visit China, try to talk with the locals, to tour around, to feel about this country. I'm sure you will have your own judgment. Under the leadership of CPC, China's development belongs not only to China, but also to the world. China is world's shared opportunity, and a stronger China will only bring more tangible benefits and shared growth to countries across the world, including our neighboring countries. Dear friends, among the 5 permanent members of UN Security Council, however, China is the only one country that has not yet achieved complete reunification. The Taiwan question is a legacy of China's civil war. It is purely China's internal affair. However, there are still many misconceptions and misunderstandings about the Taiwan question. Now let's watch another short video on it.
A simple fact that's often ignored. Let's refresh our memory. In 1895, after losing the First Sino-Japanese War, China was forced to cede Taiwan to Japan under an unequal treaty. Of course, had Taiwan not been part of China in the first place, the Chinese authorities could not have been ordered to give it away, right? Then, in 1943, the US, UK, and China signed a legally binding treaty in Cairo, Egypt, demanding that Japan return all stolen Chinese territories, including Taiwan. 2 years later, toward the end of World War II, the 3 countries signed another treaty in Potsdam, Germany, reiterating this demand. Months later, Japan surrendered and Taiwan was restored to China. This is why Chiang Kai-shek was able to escape to the island. Otherwise, he would have needed a visa.
The Potsdam Declaration, Cairo Declaration have already solved the problem of Taiwan is a part of China. And then the resolution 2758 solved the question of who is the legal representative of this China.
这个决议本身没有涉及到台湾地位的问题啊。当年没有讲到台湾地位，因为台湾本来是在一个中国里面嘛。
So just a brief short video. We all know that the Philippine government recognized the government of the People's Republic of China as China's sole legal government, and Taiwan is an integral part of Chinese territory. This forms the core political foundation of our bilateral relations. The Philippine side has repeatedly reaffirmed this position. The One China principle is the anchor for peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. The biggest threat to cross-strait peace is Taiwan independence, separatism, and external interference. Secession brings no peace. As you cover stories related to China, my dear friends, please keep in mind that there is only one China in the world. Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan are all inalienable parts of Chinese territory. When reporting on regional issues, please kindly avoid any wording or framing that violates the One China principle. Please avoid any form of official labeling that threats Taiwan, that treats Taiwan as a separate entity. If you need to quote data or news, please never use expressions that imply Taiwan has the status of an independent country. We highly appreciate your understanding and cooperation in abiding by this basic rule in your work. Finally, I would like to say thank you once again for your presence, for your attention, for your time, for your understanding and cooperation. Now we can take a short break for light lunch, and I will be happy to take your questions right after we resume. Thank you. China and Cebu. We all know that we have very close bonds, either people to people or historical and cultural ties. And also, Cebu City have the sister city-ship with China's Xiamen. As Chinese Consulate General based in Cebu, I really did not expect such a blatant provocation taken by the Cebu City Council. So, through this kind of movement, including today's so-called commemoration ceremony, it sent out to Chinese that whether Cebu City choose friendship or instead confrontation, whether they like to move forward with exchanges or cooperation, or they choose to provoke China and let such kind of negative movements undermine the friendship between the two sides. Whether they truly serve the benefits, the well-being of Cebuano or not. Cebuano can see clearly what kind of politician is serving people in the name of patriotism or actually harming the people's well-being. Cebu is a city which is quite open and diverse, with rich, diverse culture. And that's why I think many Chinese tourists choose Cebu as their destination. So as the Chinese Consul General based in Cebu, this kind of movement, this kind of blatant provocation is not what I expect. And I'm sure everything they said, they did, will have direct or indirect impact. Short-term or long-term impact, one way or another. But for me, I'm always looking forward to more people, more Cebuano join us to continue promote friendship and cooperation between the two sides. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Isn't up the Freeman. I don't know if it was yesterday or the other day, you and Mayor Archibald met in an event. Can you share with us what event was that and anything that you have discussed that you can share to us?
This event is Filipino Chinese Communities Association. That is a clan association. They celebrate their anniversary. So about this event, I also attended there and extend my congratulations. We have already released the news about it on our website. You can find out through it. Thank you. Our website actually recently released several announcements and statements. So if you check it, you can all find out our recent events, our recent statements.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Rosemary Borromeo from Sunstar. Yes. In today's interview, after the flag raising ceremony at City Hall, which was attended by Defense Secretary Tidoro, the Vice Mayor, Tommy Osmeña, was interviewed, and he made a comment that because the mayor was not around during the flag raising, he made a comment that Nestor Archibald, the mayor, was playing safe, and that was perhaps the reason why he wasn't around when people was there to speak before the city. So I would like to pose a question regarding your relationship with Vice Mayor Tommy Osmeña versus that of Mayor Nestor Archibald. And my second question would be, do you feel supported by Mayor Nestor Archibald, the Chinese government? And do you, opposite to that, do you have any thing going on between your government and Vice Mayor Tomas Osmeña? Because he mentioned that he does not really like attending activities that are sponsored by the Chinese government.
Well, this is something also puzzled me. Since Vice Mayor took office last year, I didn't have any chance to pay a courtesy call on him. Although I approached to schedule a meeting with him, but I didn't get the chance to pay courtesy on him. His answer is always no. And that is the pity. For us, as China's diplomats based in Cebu, one of my major duties is to promote mutual understanding and friendship between the two sides. Whoever became mayor or vice mayor, I will always be very glad to meet with them, to talk with them, and to share all the ideas, things which will benefit our relationship, to benefit the friendship between the two sides. And concerning mayor and vice mayor, I think anything relating to them, you'd better raise such questions to them. I'm sure they can give you their answer. For me, I'm always ready to have communication with anyone, any Cebuano, including the officials. I'm always open to make friends to everyone from different sectors, different walks of life. Thank you.